The Wizard and the Architect Simple Short Story by AI. Scene 1. The heavy tomes slammed shut as Manni finished reading the ancient text for what felt like the 100th time. He had put most of the books into his eclectic and photographic memory. He looked up at his mentor, Archmage Eldarin, with a mix of trepidation and determination. So the prophecy is true then? I am the one foretold to face the rising dark powers and prevent the cataclysm? Manni asked, his heart pounding. The prophecy had spoken of one that would emerge with a mark upon the back of his neck, a light wizard trained for battle, showing exceptional magical prowess, unlike any of his fellow apprentices. Eldarin nodded solemnly. The signs have been clear for months now. You are the promised Mage of Legends, Manni. It is your fate to stand against the forces of evil threatening to plunge our world into shadow. Manni felt the weight of destiny press down on his shoulders. For years he had trained for endless hours, pushing his magical abilities to their limits. But actually fulfilling the prophecy seemed almost impossible for the 18-year-old apprentice. I will not fail you, Master, Manni said, rising to his feet. He gathered his long crimson robes around himself and grasped his polished star coil staff tightly. Where must I begin this quest? The Blighted Lands, Eldarin replied. You must travel to the heart of darkness and prevent the resurrection of the dread Lord Vizrak. Stop him from being reborn into this world, or all light will be extinguished. With those ominous words, Manni brushed the nervousness aside and focused his mind. He began chanting, channeling his potent magic into opening a shimmering portal outlined in azure energy. Before stepping through, he turned to his master once more. Keep the faith, Eldarin. Light will prevail this day. No sooner had Manni emerged amid the scorched brimstone plains than he was beset by a horde of terrifying demonic monstrosities, towering obsidian juggernauts with whipping tails and vicious horns wreathed in scorching flames. Their massive, bulky forms seemed carved from jagged volcanic rock, rippling with unnatural musculature and sprouting bony protrusions and spines across their hunched backs. Baleful red light burned in the sunken pits of their eyes, and every rasping exhalation unleashed gouts of sulphurous smoke from between rows of dripping fangs. The beasts' cloven hooves shook the ground with every thunderous step, their hulking frames easily 20 feet tall at the shoulder. Each swing of their manties, like forelimbs ending in jagged obsidian blades, could cleave a man in two. The whip-like tails, tipped with razored barbs, lashed about with nightmarish speed, flaying the very air itself. Their brutish skulls were adorned with a natural crown of wicked curved horns, each one wreathed in roiling orange-red flames that danced and sputtered across the beast's rock-like hides. The unbearable heat and stench of brimstone accompanied their every earth-shaking footfall as they closed in on Manni, nightmarish maws agape to unleash roars of earth-shattering ferocity. With a whirl of his jeweled staff, the young mage conjured a shimmering, cascading wave of kinetic force to batter back against the inexorable onslaught of the hellish juggernauts. Even as they were momentarily held at bay, fresh monstrosities kept erupting from the brimstone fissures, their numberless ranks driven by an insatiable hunger to rend and incinerate any living trespasser. They responded by disgorging volatile orbs of hellfire. Manni spun his staff in a blurring arc, casting a shimmering shield to deflect the deadly barrage. Gouts of eldritch energy erupted from the staff's ornate headpiece, hammering the monsters with arcane blasts. All around, more grotesque horrors emerged from crevices and pits to join the fray, drawn by Manni's conspicuous magic. He summoned a whirling cyclone of razor-sharp ice shards to slice apart a knot of shambling horrors. The outcome did not look promising, and he wondered why he had been sent here to face these beasts alone. With one of his hands, he traced blazing symbols in the air that erected a dome of shimmering force to contain the heaving onslaught. Chanting reverberating syllables, Manni suddenly burst up in a shockwave of searing holy fire that screamed outward and incinerated a wide swath of the abominations. He would not be prevented from achieving his prophesied task. Vizrak's vile legions had only felt the first searing taste of the light's power channeled through Manni's mastery of magic. The forces of darkness would be made to fear the name of the prophesied mage again. The ground trembled underfoot as a massive obsidian-skinned behemoth lumbered forth from a smoldering crevice. A bestial roar shook the air as the hulking monster fixed its blazing red eyes on Manni. An Efreet, a terrifying and ancient elemental spirit of flames and destruction. Manni gripped his staff tightly, power crackling at his fingertips. He would need to summon every ounce of his mystical training to survive this onslaught. With surprising swiftness, the towering Efreet's spiked fists smashed down where Manni had been standing. The young mage nimbly leapt and tumbled aside, feeling the intense heat blister his robes as he narrowly avoided the crushing blow. Manni retaliated by conjuring a concentrated beam of eldritch force that lanced out and skewered the Efreet's shoulder, searing away smoldering chunks of its molten hide. It only seemed to enrage the fiery titan further. Bellowing in fury, the Efreet spread its vast arms and expelled a torrent of roiling flames. Manni swiftly erected a flickering shield of magical energy to weather the scorching deluge, but he could feel the blazing heat steadily eroding his defenses. As the roaring inferno momentarily ebbed, Manni went on the offensive. With a complex series of arcane gestures, he traced glowing celestial symbols that burst into scintillating existence before him. From within these eldritch sigils stepped forth towering arch-beings of radiant light and holy power. They appeared as monolithic humanoid figures over 10 feet tall, their forms sculpted from brilliant illumination that gently undulated and shifted in mesmerizing patterns. Though they lacked true physical shapes, an aura of overwhelming sacred energy radiated from the arch-beings with the warmth of 1,000 suns. Now he was not alone. Then, with them, he summoned streaking comets of frozen hailstone that pounded the Efreet, each impact adhering more jagged ice to its body. Steam and smoke billowed as the flames fought against the enveloping frost. Manni kept up the barrage until the beast was encased in a thick shell of ice, its fire momentarily quelled. But he knew the reprieve was only temporary. Already the ice was growing slick as the inner furnace melted its way free once more. Manni centered himself, chanting a complex arcane litany as he began weaving the intricate threads of magic for one final, all-out attack. As the Efreet burst forth in a blazing explosion, hurling jagged shards of ice in all directions, Manni made one last sweeping gesture with his staff. Coruscating tendrils of lightning arced across the creature, a deafening thunderclap echoing like doom across the blighted lands. The Efreet convulsed, pierced by mystical bolts of electric judgment. Its fiery form rapidly shrank, scorched and dissipating into ashen embers that whirled away in the aftermath of Manni's onslaught. Though drained and singed, Manni allowed himself a momentary respite. He had bested one of the most fearsome enforcers in Vizrak's ranks, but he knew greater challenges still awaited on his path to stop the dark resurrection. The prophecy would be fulfilled, no matter what terrors he needed to confront. Steeling his resolve, Manni pressed onwards, prowling deeper into the heart of the blighted lands, his staff shimmering with restless magic at the ready. Scene 2. The ancient ritualistic circle pulsed with baleful energy, woven from strands of profane magic and blessed by the spilled blood of the innocent. In its center hovered a roiling vortex of shadows, steadily taking the vaguely humanoid shape of a towering figure. "Yes, ye foolish mortal wizard," a deep, reverberating voice like subterranean thunder issued forth. "I, Vizrak the Eternal, shall be reborn into this realm once more." Manni raised his staff defiantly as he faced down the coalescing form of the Dark Lord. "Your reign of terror ends here, fiend. The prophecy will not be undone." An echoing laugh like shattering stone boomed out. "You are but a gnat to be crushed, insipid child. My powers exceed any conjurer's paltry tricks." As if to prove the point, tendrils of Inkai blackness whipped out from the vortex, lashing around Manni and constricting him. He could feel the vile magic sapping his very life essence. Grimacing against the draining anguish, Manni focused his will and chanted fervent words in a language as old as the world itself. His staff flared with blinding luminescence, banishing the creeping shadows. "Your overconfidence is your weakness, dread Vizrak," Manni shouted, striding forward with his staff aglow. "You were prophesied to fail." An explosion of holy light erupted from the wizard's free hand, searing into the vortex. Vizrak's resonant voice became a shrill wail of anguish as his re-embodiment was disrupted and the ritual circle shattered. From the relic-littered edge of the broken site, Manni seized an ancient ornate staff topped with a pulsing green gemstone. This was the key, according to the prophecy, an implement of immense power created by the original architects. As the shadowy remnants of Vizrak scattered, Manni turned and focused the emerald-tipped staff toward the solid stone cliffside. He began an intricate pattern of mystic gestures, channeling his magic through the relic. The ground trembled and groaned as an immense slab of granite slowly ground aside, revealing a dark portal. "I'm ready," Manni declared, tightening his grip on the relic staff as it thrummed with barely contained power. The time foretold across eons had come at last. The frigid air shrilled across the jagged obsidian peaks as Manni finally crested the summit, each long burning step through the thinner atmosphere driving him onwards. According to the ancient prophecies, this was the sanctified domain where he could call forth a direct presence from the original planar architects. His muscles burned and tendons strained against the merciless chill as he hauled himself up over the final ridgeline. There, amidst the swirling winds and mantle of perpetual storm clouds, stood a cyclopean stone dais adorned with archaic carvings. At its center rested an immense humanoid statue, one arm outstretched with its palm upturned. Manni gripped the humming relic staff tightly as he staggered the final steps toward the dais. This was the catalyst to request an audience with the primordial forgers of worlds and realities themselves. He cast aside his frost-laced cloak and raised the relic skyward, emerald crystal shimmering in the diffuse light. An intricate web of eldritch symbols and runes etched along the relic's length began to blaze with arcane energies. "Makers of the infinite cosmos," Manni's voice rang out in an arcane tongue, "by your foretold will, I invoke your presence as ordained scion to defend creation." With those ringing words, he slammed the relic's coruscating headpiece down into the upturned palm of the towering monument. Energy shuddered through the stone figure as if it were a living vessel being jolted into wakefulness. Fractal lines of blinding light erupted across the statue's form as antediluvian energies seethed out from every carved contour and etchings. Manni was forced to turn his face aside, shielding his eyes from the searing brilliance as the construct came alive with cosmic might and ignited a face projecting like from a mirror in the red sunset sky. "You have enacted the ritual of the chosen," a disembodied voice like the weight of galaxies resonated through Manni's very being. "Why have you summoned us to this insignificant mote, Archmage?" Squinting against the blinding maelstrom of cosmic forces given shape before him, Manni went down to one knee, holding the now dormant relic aloft. "To claim the prophesied powers as the mantled Archmage ordained to battle the resurgence of the Dark Lords, O Architect," he replied, keeping his voice steeled against the overwhelming presence. "Grant me the ascendant abilities to stand as reality's eternal guardian." Scene 3. "You have traveled farther than any of your kindred, young Archmage," a resonant, feminine voice spoke into his mind. "Few amongst the ephemeral mortals merit an audience with us." On the silver dais, strands of incandescent energy wove and shifted into a towering feminine silhouette. Despite its lack of distinct features, Manni felt the sheer vastness of this being's ancient power wash over him. Continuing on one knee, clutching the architect's relic staff in deference. "Architect of the cosmos, I come as the prophesied magician, sworn to banish the return of the Dark Lords and their reigns of terror." "We are aware of the vile forces you battle," the entity's voice thrummed. "Across infinite realms, our sight encompasses even the darkest machinations." An outstretched hand of pure energy emerged from the luminous form, motioning Manni to rise and approach. He felt the weight of destiny descend. "Few are found worthy amongst this iteration of the multiverse," the voice intoned. "But the architects have marked you as the scion of our power to fight against the eternal imbalance." The brilliant figure reached out, ephemeral tendrils brushing against Manni's brow in an exhilarating torrent of knowledge. He gasped as incomprehensible secrets of cosmic magic, from the universe's first flaring into existence to the birth of galaxies and planes of reality, flooded his consciousness. A sublime energy flowed into Manni's very being. He felt himself become a resonating conduit through which the primordial fires of creation could be channeled and reshaped by his will. Any magic, no matter how ancient or powerful, bent to his absolute mastery. The architect's light intensified to a blinding degree as it spoke once more, the celestial voice shaking Manni's core. "You are elevated as Archmage Supreme, ordained to maintain the sacred balance against Oblivion's grasping talons. Forevermore, Manni of the Illuminar Order, you shall be the eternal guardian of realms." The architect provides Manni with all possible incantations to acquire all power. Knowing that Manni is of good nature and has been conditioned to be of good character, the architect has selected him as the supreme magician of the multiverse. He does not have to do any training with the architect, but instead has all of the incantations downloaded into his memory through a liquid elixir. Manni emerged from the blinding revelations, his eyes blazing with unfathomable cosmic power. He gripped the relic staff, which had transformed into a seemingly living pillar of scintillating energies. "I will honor my fated charge until existence's final whisper," Manni vowed, his voice ringing with conviction and sorceress, might beyond mortal reckoning, The Dark Lord's reign is ended permanently this day. Flourishing the relic stave, Manni opened a shimmering portal rift and strode through it, ready to take his new battle across realities to any who would seek to unbalance peaceful planes. An imperishable age of his vigilant stewardship had begun. He would seek the guidance of leading wizards of all the universe he ever explored, knowing that it was his destiny to be the most powerful magical force of good in the architect's designed cosmos.